We think of things like side hustles, overemployment, and that whole dream of passive income as being a completely modern thing, something born out of the internet age and our collective burnout. But what if I told you the entire blueprint for this lifestyle was actually written over 600 years ago? Yeah, you heard me right. The guy we all know as the father of English literature, Geoffrey Chaucer, was an absolute master at juggling a very demanding day job with a passion project that just happened to include some, let's say, earthy humor. And believe me, this wasn't just for kicks. It was a strategy. Because really, Chaucer's story, it's our story. It's about that timeless tug of war between the work that pays the bills and the work that actually makes you feel alive. Turns out, things haven't changed all that much. Okay, so before we jump in our time machine, let's set the stage with what's happening right now. Because today, the classic 9 to 5 is being seriously challenged by this massive desire for more. A huge part of this is a new trend called overemployment. It's this wild idea, really only possible because of remote work, where people are secretly juggling 2, sometimes even more full-time jobs. It's not just about making ends meet anymore. It's about a high-risk, high-reward play to get ahead and get ahead fast. So why are people doing this? Well, the reasons are probably going to sound familiar. It's about reaching financial freedom or wiping out debt. For others, it's about funding that dream project. And for some, it's about pure creative satisfaction or just refusing to be stuck in a single career box. Keep these in mind because we're going to see them again. All right, let's wind the clock back 600 years and meet our guy, but for a second, I want you to forget about the famous poet. First, let's meet Geoffrey Chaucer, the incredibly successful government bureaucrat. And just look at this resume. This was not some temp job. He was an esquire in the royal court. Then he became the controller of customs for London, a huge job managing all the money from the wool trade. He was a justice of the peace and then clerk of the king's works, basically a project manager for royal construction. This was a serious, lifelong career. So the main thing to get here is that his day job was super stable, very respected, and it paid really, really well. But let's be real. Calculating taxes and managing building sites, it was probably pretty tedious. This was the absolute definition of a steady, reliable paycheck. And this is where it gets so clever. Chaucer used his stable career not as his life's work, but as a tool. You could almost say he was one of the original followers of the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. But his goal wasn't just to quit working. For him, the real prize wasn't the money, it was time. He did his job well enough to keep his important, well-paying positions, but his true focus was on fiercely guarding his personal time. He was literally buying himself the freedom to do what he truly loved. So I present to you the Chaucer Method, a 14th century life hack guide. Step 1, land that stable job. Step 2, be good at it, but don't let it become your whole life. Avoid the medieval version of working late. Step 3, treat that free time you've carved out like it's gold. And step 4, well, that's when you change the world. So what did he do with all that carefully protected time? Oh, nothing much, just wrote the Canterbury Tales, one of the most foundational works in all of English literature. That was his side hustle, the massive passion project that was fully funded by his boring but reliable government salary. So we have the day job, and we have the dream job. Now let's really put them side by side with today. Because when you look at Chaucer, next to a modern hustler, the similarities are kind of crazy. Just check this out. The day job for Chaucer was controller of customs. For a modern hustler, maybe a remote tech job. The side hustle, for him, it was writing an epic poem. For us, it might be coding an app or starting a podcast. The goal? We talk about financial independence. He was chasing creative fulfillment. And the income, we want passive income. But Chaucer was shooting for something bigger, immortality. But when you boil it all down, the motivation is exactly the same, even 600 years later. Autonomy. It's that fundamental human desire to be in control of your own time, your own work, and your own story. Whether you're building a business or writing a classic, you're buying your freedom. So what's the big takeaway from this medieval career plan? Well, the lesson is surprisingly relevant and honestly pretty inspiring for us today. What Chaucer shows us is that your day job doesn't have to be a trap. It can be a tool. It can be the solid, stable foundation that pays the bills and gives you the security to take those big creative risks in your own time.
And that brings us to this final powerful idea. We're all chasing passive income from our side hustles, right? But Chaucer's story hints at a totally different kind of long-term investment. He created something with a value that can't be measured in money. He created a legacy.
So I'll just leave you with this. We all have that job that pays the bills. That's a given. But what's the masterpiece you're building in the evenings and on the weekends? What's the passion project you are so fiercely protecting your time for? In other words, what's your Canterbury tale?